Welcome back to Sense Thinking. I'm Ita Bay, and I'm starting today's video out in the garden as a reminder of what's the point of reading and what's the point of anything we learn in a school setting or any kind of structured learning setting. And it's life. That's the point. That's the point of our learning. It's to enrich our lives. It's to make sense of our lives. It's to expand our lives. It's to help us make new connections. It's to help us discover new things. So it's about life. And where does the information that we read in texts, in books, online, where does that information come from? It comes from life. It comes from a person's experience, a person's insights, a person's imagination, which is itself a response to living life. So when you teach reading, the more you can help the reader become more in contact with the fullness of life through their reading, the richer and more valuable their reading experience will be. Let's think about what happens when you watch a child engaged in imaginative play. You see that they're actually already doing something quite sophisticated, something that we're going to ask them to be doing again when we teach them this process, which is they have taken their toys, they are creating an inner image that they're acting out with the toys, and they are interacting. They're changing the relationships, they're manipulating the variables, they're doing all sorts of things that are already exactly what you want your learners to be able to do with the text. So children already have the ability to engage in really sophisticated interaction with the text if you as a teacher or a parent know how to create that bridge between the text and their natural play. Okay, we're back in the studio. Now, I'm going to gather our supplies. We need a text. And so today I'm going to be using Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. You'll also need some objects or toys. I have peg dolls. That's one of I use peg dolls quite often. You can also use really anything you have on hand. So if I'm working with adults, so you can use objects, pieces of paper, game pieces. If you're working with children, it's fun, certainly fun to use toys. Adults also like to use toys. So I'm going to pause for a second and go back to something I just said about working with adults. I use this technique of working with objects and manipulatives at every level. I use it personally. And the reason I do is because when you lift off from the text or immerse yourself in the text, whatever metaphor or image you want to use, the moment you do that, you get to see more in the text than you could if you're just reading it alone. So it's really a powerful process. The very first time I did this, in fact, the reason I know this is so powerful is because I actually worked, when I was testing this out as a process, I had a few objects and I chose a book that I love. I was working with a book called Field Notes. Field Notes, I believe is the name of it, by Misha Belinsky, one of my favorite books. I'm mentioning it here because I read that book twice. I knew the book really well. I would talk about it to my partner who also enjoyed the book. So I was really immersed in the book. I did not expect to discover anything new. I just wanted to experiment with the process. Well, I decided to set up the main conflict, the core conflict in the book. And I was so surprised that after I set up the core conflict, the protagonist and the antagonist, and the issue over which they were holding this conflict, I understood something about the larger dynamic between the two figures, the two characters, that I had never seen when I read the book, after reading it twice and after discussing the book. The point here is use it with all ages. In fact, I recommend the best way to try this out is for you to do it for yourself. Try this out for yourself with any text, any book, any current events that you want to learn more about. And I can't promise, I don't know what you will experience, but I will tell you that almost every time that I do this, I receive insights that I would not have gained otherwise. I'm talking about toys and reading comprehension, but really I'm delivering to you something really potent in terms of its power. Okay. So let's get started. I'm just going to show you basically how it works, and then I'll interject with the 3 dimensions of inquiry. I'll point out the 3 dimensions of inquiry as we go along. So Alice is sitting next to the riverbank with her sister, and she's bored. Her sister has a book. If I want, I can represent the book. Let's say this is the book, and the book has no pictures in it. So Alice is really unhappy about that. And then she notices a rabbit come by her and then move on past her. The rabbit goes over by a little, I think a bush. Yeah, goes by a bush. I can represent something for the bush here. And then the rabbit goes down the rabbit hole. Okay, so that's it. I could have just that. I could have just that movement of the rabbit coming in, going by Alice and going down. And then what does Alice do? Alice follows the rabbit down the rabbit hole. The very first thing that we have here is the spatial relationship between the characters. I recommend that you pause the video here so you can take a look at the questions that you can use with your readers as you explore the spatial dimension of the story. So what you're going to find is that you will have some readers who are excellent with the spatial dynamic, with mapping out how the characters are moving over the course of the text. But you may find that they might not pick up on the next stage, which is the relational dimension. And in the relational dimension, what's happening is we are looking at how the characters relate to each other. How do they feel about each other? Are they in conflict with each other? Pause the video here to look at some of the questions you can use to explore the relational dynamic of the story. If your students and your children can't map how the characters move through the text, then that's a great time to just pause and work with them. Can they identify in the text who are the characters? Can they find words that indicate how that character, what that character does in the scene that you're reading? Okay. Oh, I'm such a slow video maker, and it's at the end of the day. I've decided to come sit by the window. You can't tell, but I'm sitting next to the window right now, reconnecting with life, which is the whole point of anything that we're doing, which is to help our learners find a way through text to actually get to see life in a new way. Okay, so I'm getting very big and profound here. I talked to you about 2 dimensions of inquiry, the spatial and relational, and I haven't really covered in this video the 3rd dimension of inquiry, which is dynamic. The dynamic dimension is more advanced, so I will go into that in greater depth later. But for you, if you're going to do this on your own, you can think about the dynamic space as hidden dynamics, or what's in between the lines. So when you're working with the dynamic dimension of inquiry, you've got the characters, you're moving them around, you're sensing into relationally, and then you can start to feel, perceive things. Well, I'm going to let you be surprised. I really do hope you're going to try it out and find, just play around. What happens when you start creating a 3-dimensional representation of what you're reading? See what it gives, what new insights come to you. I hope you enjoy playing with this. This is my first time teaching it in this way, so I also hope that it was clear. But we'll put it out there. You'll have a chance to play with it. You can give me some feedback, and I'll keep producing these videos and teaching you more of what I have developed through my work with sense thinking. Great to see you. See you next time. Like, subscribe, do all those things. Bye-bye.